In the red silence of the desert, a name traveled on the wind, a name spoken with fear, respect, and unbroken determination. Geronimo grew from harsh lands, shaped by sunstone and silence, learning strength through endurance and spiritual discipline. His eyes carried storms of memory, reflecting grief, courage, and a fire the desert itself could not extinguish. The Apache lived by movement and instinct, following herd seasons and the ancient wisdom of shifting sand. Families relied on harmony, carrying knowledge from generations who survived through skill, resilience, and unity. Warriors painted their faces with meaning, calling on spirits to guide their hearts and sharpen their purpose. Storms rising over the mountains warned that destiny approached, driving the people toward difficult choices. In that gathering darkness, Geronimo stood ready, becoming the warrior whose spirit no empire could silence. Geronimo once lived peacefully until violence tore through his world, leaving wounds deeper than any blade. Soldiers shattered his family in moments, turning joy into silence and the desert floor into a place of mourning. Grief transformed into a fire that rebuilt him, shaping a resolve stronger than steel or fear. From that day, he vowed to protect his people, refusing to let injustice define their future. Elders prayed for his wounded spirit, knowing his pain would mold a warrior unlike any before him. His sorrow became purpose, guiding every step he took across the blazing desert. Loss carved new strength within him, demanding justice against forces that crushed innocent lives. From ashes and tears, a legend rose, one fueled by heartbreak, but unbroken in spirit. Geronimo mastered the desert the same way a hawk masters the sky, using every ridge, canyon, and shadow to his advantage. His warriors moved without sound, learning to vanish into stone and brush before enemies sensed danger. Their speed turned mountains into allies, allowing them to strike and disappear before dust settled. Soldiers found empty camps and warm ashes, realizing they faced opponents who understood the land far better. Every raid was precise, a blend of instinct, timing, and centuries of Apache survival teaching. Night protected them, fires burned low, and warriors whispered strategies under a moonlit sky. Pursuing troops struggled through brutal terrain, exhausted, lost, and unable to match Apache endurance. Watching from the high cliffs, Geronimo turned pursuit into frustration, making the desert itself part of his resistance. As America expanded west, the pressure on Apache lands grew heavy, threatening the freedom they carried for generations. Telegraph wires and forts marked a spreading empire, reshaping sacred territory without permission or respect. New roads cut directly through ancient trails, disrupting hunting patterns and spiritual pathways. Families were arrested, moved, and controlled by rigid orders written far from desert realities. Children clung to parents as displacement began, leaving behind mountains, rivers, and ancestral memories. Watching from high canyons, Geronimo felt anger sharpen into resolve, unwilling to let his people be erased. Soldiers marching across sacred ground signaled an occupation meant to break Apache identity. Gathering his warriors, Geronimo prepared for resistance, knowing survival demanded more courage than ever before. Geronimo became the most hunted man in America, yet he rode through moonlit deserts with confidence, knowing every canyon trail better than any soldier. At night, he moved silently across the sands, using darkness as protection while listening to distant hoofbeats echo through the still desert air. His warriors erased footprints with practiced precision, turning the desert floor into a maze soldiers could never read or understand. Troops searched barren hills, finding only shimmering heat, wind-carved stones, and the untraceable silence left by Apache movement. 5. Geronimo climbed impossible canyon walls with effortless grace, proving his strength came from a lifetime shaped by unforgiving land. Ambushes erupted, suddenly scattering soldiers as arrows and gunfire struck from shadows, then vanished into night without leaving a trail. Newspapers across the nation portrayed him as the final Apache rebel, capturing public imagination with stories of daring escapes. Again and again, he slipped into mountain fog, leaving nothing but dust behind while armies failed to close the distance. After years of fleeing, the Apache grew exhausted, their faces lean from hunger, yet their spirits still guided by unbroken determination. Water vanished from dry riverbeds, forcing desperate searches under relentless sun, while weary horses struggled to continue. Warriors remained alert despite fading strength, guarding families with discipline earned from years of hardship and constant danger. Geronimo stood on a rocky ridge, realizing resistance had reached its final chapter, though his heart refused to surrender. Soldiers closed in from multiple sides, forming a tightening ring of dust and rifles around the exhausted band. Warriors gathered their remaining weapons, preparing for one last escape, hoping courage would carry them through impossible odds. Around a dim fire, Geronimo shared soft words with those still beside him, reminding them their struggle-honored ancestors. As sunrise approached, he sensed destiny drawing near, knowing choice and consequence now stood edge to edge. Geronimo surrendered not from weakness, but to spare his people more suffering, understanding survival required sacrifice beyond pride. He walked toward the soldiers with unwavering composure, embodying dignity, even as the world around him collapsed. Recognizing his courage, soldiers lowered their rifles, showing rare respect for a man who resisted entire armies with strategy and heart. When he handed over his rifle, he kept his spirit intact, proving defeat cannot touch a soul that refuses to break. His weathered face revealed strength carved by years of loss, yet still carried pride no enemy could erase. Apache families watched silently, torn between heartbreak and relief, knowing this moment saved their remaining children. Soldiers escorted them carefully, understanding they walked beside a legend whose name reshaped the history of the American West. As the sun set over Red Hills, one era ended, but Geronimo's unbroken spirit prepared to live on through memory. In old age, Geronimo shared stories beside glowing firelight, teaching children that strength came not from anger, but from spirit shaped by hardship and survival. Apache riders galloped across desert plains, keeping alive traditions he defended, reminding the world their culture endured despite years of relentless persecution. Photographs captured his unwavering gaze, revealing a warrior whose courage remained intact even long after battlefields turned silent. His name echoed through ancient canyons, carried by winds that remembered every chase, every escape, and every vow he made. Modern Apache dancers honored him through ceremonial rhythms, lifting prayers skyward to reconnect with ancestors who fought to protect their homeland. Young warriors practiced under moonlit skies, inspired by the legacy of resistance. Geronimo carved into history with grit and unbreakable resolve. Crimson sunsets painted the desert, reminding future generations that the land still holds the echoes of his footsteps and unyielding will. Though his life ended, his spirit never surrendered, living as a timeless symbol of defiance, courage, and the enduring heart of the Apache people.